cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut. Top cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sunny List Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Giant Skyhawk, and I'll introduce our guest in a moment, but first off, I'm going to go through all of our wonderful sponsors. So first off, a huge shout out to ETB Games and Steelfox Games. I have never been to these places personally, as I don't live in Louisiana, but if you are in the Louisiana area, they're fantastic shops. Sunny talks them up all the time. You can find them online as well. Also a massive shout out to Gem Accessories. They make fantastic deck boxes and playmats and backpacks as well. The Gem Tech backpacks are awesome. And a shout out to Dragon Shield. You can now get Japanese size custom sleeves. Sunny recently posted his normal summon Mo Yi. I can't believe he did those. But I have some ideas in the tank for mine, so if you want to get yours, there's an affiliate link in the description. And this is new, Tier 0 Games, we now have an affiliate link with. So if you want to check out the description there, you can use code TOPCUT5 for 5% off all of your orders. And as always, a massive shout out to all of our lovely patrons. We will read those names off at the end of the episode, and our guest can just completely laugh at us for the ridiculous stuff that you all come up with for us to read every week. And on that note, we have today on the podcast Mr. James Sumner. James, would you like to introduce yourself to the people who may not know who you are from our side of the pond?
I think that's probably a lot more people than do know who I am from your side of the pond. But I'm James Sumner. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh content creator. I'm predominantly on TikTok. Not sure 100% how it happened, but I'm mostly from there. But I do have YouTube videos as well. I have my own Yu-Gi-Oh podcast as well. It's called T-Set Pass, where I just invite interesting people to talk about their experience of Yu-Gi-Oh! and the way they've experienced either the casual side or the competitive side. We've got a real mix of people. Some well-known players that you might have heard of, like Asian Eyes, who used to be the king of Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube. Obviously, he's still pretty active, but he does more on the Diablo side and other games now. People like Shiggies, people like Eva, like so many interesting conversations I've had. But yeah, no, so I'm in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Content creation space. And that's the last thing. That's what I've been doing for the last year, and it seems to be going. It's always room to grow.
Yeah, that's true. I'll always room to grow. I think you're sitting at what, like, not that numbers really matter much, but you're almost at 36K on TikTok. So it's been.
I'm like at 35.9, I think, as of yesterday. So yeah. Probably maybe 36 by the time I get people see this.
Listen, by the time this goes up, if we could push it to 36, I'll take it. So. Yeah, it seems mostly Yu-Gi-Oh! It seems like you were kind of a little more on the variety side, but lately you've leaned pretty heavily into Yu-Gi-Oh! Just kind of based on running through your feed. So off the top, I have some pretty simple questions about kind of what got you into Yu-Gi-Oh! So I guess we'll start with that. How did you start with Yu-Gi-Oh? Were you somebody who came in through the anime as a kid? Did you run into the card game? What's your origin story?
From the womb to the tomb, I'm in Yu-Gi-Oh. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh as long as I physically have like a memory space. Like as a very small child, I have the memories of opening the booster pack. The bad booster packs, where the best card you might get would be like a Gravedigger Ghoul to banish those two cards from the opponent's graveyard. Yeah. So I have very. I can't remember the context around them, but I remember as a very small child opening those little booster packs. I have fond memories of my dad got me a deck of the Yugi starter deck, and I think he had the Kaiba starter deck, and we dueled each other. So it would have been around the time when they released, or within the year after. So at least about 20 years ago, 22, 21 maybe. So a long time ago, and I would watch the show. We had VHS copies of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. So I would rewatch the same 5 or 10 episodes that I had on VHS because it wasn't on TV at that point. But then GX came on TV, and if any British people listen to your podcast, old CITV in the morning and Toonami and stuff. Not Toonami, Toonatic in English.
Toonatic.
So Toonatic. It was like the studio was an attic, and it would have like some mail. It was pretty fun. That's where we got our Pokemon and our Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff, and Beyblade. So as a kid watching the anime, I would watch the reruns of Duel Monsters, but other than reruns, I didn't really watch it all. So I think it was probably like the first Duelist Kingdom 5 or 6 episodes over and over and over again. It was when GX was on TV that I got really into the anime side, and it was on every day before school, and obviously you got the progression through that. And then when that finished, 5Ds, and then I sort of took a dip out around Zexal time because 5Ds is so serious and Zexal's so goofy. I've come around as since, but at the time when I was 13, I did not want Yuma. I wanted more Yusei, and so I took a dip out for Zexal, and that's when I sort of took a dip out of playing as much. But I would get the new cards as I wanted them. Whenever like a new hero would come out that I'd like, I might grab that or something. But I wouldn't like build proper decks. But then when Arc 5 came out, I was obsessed. The show was so good, and the decks were all good. They were all fun. I want to play Raid Raptors. Oh no, tomorrow I want to play Fluffle. There was loads of decks to choose from, and they were all about as good as each other for the beginning of Arc 5 anyway. And so ever since then, I've never really stopped. I've had times where I'm more or less competitive minded, but I've never been out of the Yu-Gi-Oh scene in my brain, at least, if not anywhere else.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your story, it kind of lines up a little bit with mine. I was definitely not as far back as Yugi Kaiba structure deck. I got zero memories from that time, but I was kind of the same where it was like I was in through like 5Ds and then out through Zexal because Yusei was just the coolest dude in the world. And it's just funny that you mentioned I rewatched the same like 5 to 10 episodes on VHS. Not VHS for me, but DVD. So maybe that's the generational divide. But we had like DVD it was basically like the last episode of the Bandit Keith Joey duel up until like the first episode of the Yugi versus Pegasus like final match, and that was what I just had
the Weevil. I just had the Weevil and the Panic duels. So it'd be Weevil and Panic over and over again. Wow, the castle's gonna come crashing down again. Who could have seen it coming? No way! So I was earlier in Duelist Kingdom than you. I was trapped there. But
in the comments below, if you all had just like 6 episodes that you had on VHS or DVD, let us know what they are. I want to know what you went through as a child. So I guess I don't even really think I need to ask this question, but I'm going to anyway. I was going to ask you what your favorite deck was just to play or just in general, but you have an entire series about collecting every single elemental hero card. So is that your favorite archetype, or are you just lying to everybody?
It's up there. It's hard to say your favorite because they all come at different times, and I've had different favorites as the eras have moved on. Like Hero is like my childhood nostalgia love, and the first deck, that actually felt like it could do anything. Because obviously, when you're a tiny child, your deck is just all the cards you have.
Yeah, that's just normal summon, tribute summon Dark Triceratops over Hyper Hammerhead type beat.
And you have like one copy of every card. You're not summoning Flame Wingman because you only have one Bastinatrix and one Avian. And Polymerization was actually quite hard to get your hands on back in the day. Like it wasn't in many packs, and unless you had like an old structure deck, you couldn't actually get many polys. So you'd be running like Miracle Fusion, but you have no polys, so you have to like get. It was a bad time to play, but fun in hindsight. And then when we moved into 5Ds, when the game actually, I don't know if this is controversial. I think that I've played retro formats and I've played like sealed only. I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh got good as a game until 5Ds. I think it's actually really slow and really boring to play. It's different in Tag Force because the AI is so bad that you can have fun with matches with the AI. Your cards are bad, but their brains are bad. But I think competitive old Yu-Gi-Oh is really tedious sometimes. But I think from 5Ds onwards, everything's fun because everything has a little bit of gas when you have a tuner because you can just turn that into something interesting. So my first proper deck was Morphtronic. I love Morphtronic, and I'll go to the ends of the earth for Morphtronic. So because I collect a lot of decks, I have a lot of favorites, but Hero would be like my first love. And I like Hero for me now is a lot of reliving what I'd have liked to have done as a child. Like as a kid, you never would have got the Neo Fusions off because they're so bad, because you'd have to normal summon him. But now I can do it with Neo Fusion. And so it's like you're getting the fun of playing with all those cards that you would have loved to play with as a kid. So my original I wouldn't even call my hero deck a hero deck. It was just all the cards I had, which happened to be a lot of heroes. But my first real deck was Morphtronic, and that was where I have a lot of love for. I love Morphtronic.
That would have back when the playmakers were like playmakers would have been Selphon and
what do you mean then? The playmaker's still
yeah,
Selphon.
still
You roll
Selphon.
that dice. We never stop excavating.
We're rolling. The Morphtronic cards.
Selphon, Telephon, and now
Telephon
is.
is.
Telephon's the new. What's the other one? Smartphone.
Selphon,
Telephon.
Because Selphon is the one that activates the special, and then the other one, Smartphone's the one that activates the add, right?
But Smartphone is cool because you can banish to summon, so you don't need to use your normal summon. Exactly. And then you can sync them into Formula Synchron, and you can do other stuff. Yeah, it's like a really fun deck. When Hulk was legal, I was still playing Morphtronic. I was playing Morphtronic, Hulk, Auradon, Turbo into syncs.
Machine
so
time.
When Hulk got banned, I haven't really thought of a way to make them good. I have been playing a little bit of Tri Brigade FTK just to use Telephone.
Because I thought it was so funny when I saw that people like post that deck, because I was like, so we're really it's Tri Brigade, but we just get to jam Telephon, and then if we see Telephon off of like itself for the dice cards, we just get to do the FTK.
That is it. It's fun. I already played Tri Brigade as well. Tri Brigade is one of the more modern loves of my life. It was the first time I'd really bought into a deck whilst it was still good in a format. And Tri Brigade format was the first regional I ever went to. I've only been to 2, but that was the first of the 2 I've been to. Didn't do terribly, I don't think. I can't remember where I came. I think it was like 80th out of 150, which isn't great, but it isn't terrible. Like first time paper playing in a competitive tournament.
First time regional going about even is a W. You've never been in that environment before. That's a win.
No, it was so tiring. Because I had to get a train there as well, and then train back in the evening, and it was like, and it was a cold. It was in Blackpool in England, which is like a coast town, so it's right by the sea. So it was like freezing, and there's seagulls everywhere. It was like a not a bad day. It was just a tiring day. But yeah, so Hero Morphtronic, more recently Tri Brigade, very very as in the last month, Tier Element has been what I've been swaying.
I've seen the post on Blue Sky. You were joining me in coping on a Fluffle engine for a little while. I
took it out I went to my first locals in a year, and I say my first locals in a year, but I've only been to like 3 locals before that, so it might as well be my first locals ever, as much of the experience as I have with locals. I took out the Fluffle engine because I cowered it out. But I just thought, if I'm bothering to do it, I'm going to try and be as sleek and cut it down to 40. I think I ended up on 41 somehow. 100%. I think it was just an accident.
I mean, Tier has so many like weird one-ofs, and now that everything has been limited, you kind of have to like mishmash stuff. But that also makes it very fun because hands play out very differently. It's like
100%.
Am I starting out like King of the Swamp? Am I sending like Trivikarma? Am I doing? Am I normal summoning Merly and praying? Like what's that? That's how.
That's partially why I like Tier so much, because like when you're a not amazing Yu-Gi-Oh player, you draw your hand and you think about what you're gonna do when you look at the cards you have. When I was explaining this to somebody I was helping the other day, and I said to them, looking at your hand and making your plays based on your hand is how you start playing Yu-Gi-Oh. When you get good at playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you know what hand you want, and you build the entire deck to make the hand that you want happen. However, Tier, because of the randomization, I have a very good excuse to be thinking on the fly. And so I get to make my plays live. And that's what I really enjoy. So all of my advice would be thrown out of the window for Tier, because you have to rely on the roll. And I love the mill. And I love making a different fusion because this is the only one I can make right now. And this is the good one.
I love that. I love the idea of, no, actually, I just get to tunnel vision onto this.
You're living in the moment. Yeah. You're living in the moment. You got what you get in your hand. You're like, damn, this hand sucks. Do I risk it and summon this to mill the top 3, or do I just go like conservative and maybe just make a redealer and pass? It's like, no, I'm gonna roll, and never bad mills. I've had bad hands, but never bad mills.
You are Tier 11's strongest warrior. You're never gonna get. We're always hitting Ishizu cards off of Tier mills. So I guess on the opposite side of the coin, to follow up with the crappy the generic Yu-Gi-Oh questions, is there anything you just completely like hate to play against? For me, it's like Altergeist is probably the deck that I think probably a lot of people would answer control decks, but I don't like I really don't like Protocol specifically. But is there anything that you're not a huge fan of?
It's not so much that I don't like them, because I enjoy playing most Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I don't want to be the 400th person to moan about cash. However, I find it not so fun to play against. In the regional, I went to a regional this year, so it's my second regional ever. Mm-hmm. I lost a lot of games, but I had fun in every single game that I lost, except for the cash losses, because I just couldn't do anything. And I was playing Hero, that list, and you need your grade for Hero. However, it was just like stuff like the banishing one from hand. He hits something that I needed. I had the out, and he hit the out. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, the only thing that would have saved me, he hits it straight out of the hand. So it's like, what can you even do in that point? And then I don't like how that leads into the change of deck building. So we have to run 2 of all the good stuff in the extra deck because he can just unicorn it out. And I know you can still unicorn it out, but it's less of a problem than it used to be. But I don't inherently hate Kashtira. I just hate some games against Kashtira, but there's other decks where I don't hate any of the games. So that's like
that makes sense.
Real compromise there.
It's one of those like non-games things where most of the Yu-Gi-Oh is funny. Most of the time when you actually get to play a game, it's fun whether you win or lose. It's that back and forth interaction, even if it's only across a couple of turns. Having like all of those decision points is what makes it interesting. When the decision point is like, "Hey, did you have Book of Moon?" No.
Yeah.
Hey,
no.
Did
no,
you have?
That was it. He hit the book.
It was the book.
He hit the book out of my hand.
Okay.
He hit the book out of my hand. So yeah. Nothing to do. That's what I don't enjoy playing against. I've never loved mirror matches because I like when a deck goes against a different deck. You know, I don't like the fact that this is sort of like a childish thing. I don't like seeing my own cards on the other side. I like to see something different and think about what I can do versus what they can do. And I'm not good in really grindy games. I find that if I'm not winning quickly, I'm not winning at all. My friend plays PK, and PK isn't like an amazing deck, but because I don't have the greatest, long game sustain of a lot of the decks I build, he can just grind, and everything in PK is either a search or a monster reborn in the graveyard, so they just come back, and they come back, and they come back. And I found this against Labyrinth recently. I was playing against Labyrinth for the first time. I got them down to 600 life points on turn 2, and then I just couldn't deal any more damage. And then they just ground, and then I ran out of deck. And so you know what I mean? So like, if I'm not winning quickly, I tend not to be the best in the long game. I built Vanquish Soul recently, which hopefully will change that. It's a bit more grindy. But
yeah, that is definitely a grindy deck. That's like we got 6 cards in hand. We're sitting on 2 set and a guy on board, and then I gotta keep that advantage over a long period. I think that's something that I like to say is if somebody is learning the game, they should be playing something that's very controller mid-range, because
Trap Tricks is like really easy. I think it's not the best deck, but it has like the lowest skill level. Like somebody played against me, like I'd never played Yu-Gi-Oh before, and I won because obviously for the fingers crossed, I'm actually quite okay at Yu-Gi-Oh. Yes. However, they were giving me a really hard time, even though they barely knew how to play. Just because the recycling of the trap holes and the floodgate trap holes and the Sarah, she's so good as Sarah. If Trap Tricks was ever tier 0, Sarah is the one going because she carries that entire deck on her back. But yeah, so like the fact that somebody who's barely played can give my deck a really hard time just because it's Trap Tricks, it's a really resistant engine. That's what I'd recommend for getting a first-time player who maybe wants to go to a locals or like a less casual or a slightly more casual. But but like those kind of control decks are really easy to pick up and play, but then they have like quite a low ceiling. They cannot break past a certain power level.
Right. Yeah, I think you run into some exceptions with Labyrinth and blowout cards and all that. But but
Labyrinth is a hell of a deck on it. Like Labyrinth is a weird beast. Labyrinth is like Trap Tricks for grown-ups. You know what I mean? Like Trap Tricks is like Trap Tricks is like how you get into the game, and then it's like, okay, you've mastered every trap hole. Now every normal trap in Yu-Gi-Oh. Now have a go with this, kid. You've done really well.
Now we've got the whole library to read. We've graduated from Floodgate Trap Hole to Destructive Daruba Doll Cannon.
It's like in a Final Fantasy game. You were the knight, and it's like now you're the Dark Knight. Here are the better here are the real spells you need to get on.
Nice. Okay. So for the last kind of crappy Yu-Gi-Oh get to know you question, I kind of asked her a favorite deck. Do you have a favorite card of all time? Is that something you ever think about?
Mechanically, there's a few that I really like. I've always loved Power Tool Dragon. I've loved Power Tool Dragon forever. Partially with that Morphtronic side, but even without Morphtronic, it's just a fun card. Add the equips. There are individual prints of cards that I really like. I've got a Ghost Rare Rainbow Neos that has a lot of sentimentality for me. My Ghost Rare Red Eyes Metal Flare Dragon that I was given in a pack by my old boss at my old job, so that's got a sentimentality. So I've got a couple of cards that I love individually, as a unit in a game, as opposed to a sentimental piece. Stuff like DPE. Minerva, the Light Swan Maiden, she was a sick card. I love that card. I really like generic cards. Number 101. Number 101 was the first really good generic Xyz, and I held onto that boy for so long. Got the Ghost Rare recently from my number collection. That is one of the ones up there. If we're just talking about a card without the sentimentality, 101 is just a solid boy, good enough attack, good enough effect, little bit of protection. That's me. That's me in a nutshell. Okay, I'm a good rank 4, but I'm not a rank 8.
It's so funny that 101 used to just be a staple for years, the entire Zexal era, even moving a bit into Arc V, and it just has completely fallen off the face of the earth. It's such a weird. It's kind of like Castel, where it's this card is crazy. It was so good, and now it's just
fine.
It got the Ghost Rare print, and people were like, "Really, that card?" But I
would rather the Ghost Rare 101 than the Ghost Rare Fisherman. I would have been angry if it was a Fisherman Ghost Rare. I would have been fuming.
Fair, yeah, that's fair. Okay, so I'll drop in. My favorite card of all time is probably Lost World. It would be a close race between Lost World and Fright for Cruel Whale.
I love Cruel Whale.
I love Cruel Whale.
Although Tiger would be my favorite Fright Fair, just because he's so cool.
That's fair. Big slaps. Whale was. I like to say that Whale was discount DPE, because at the time I was playing it, it was the DPE package was very expensive, and Whale Scythe was 50 cents. So
I was gonna say I liked Whale. I've always liked Whale. I liked when we were making Whale into VFD. That was a fun time. Because it's level 9, right? We did that. That was. I sometimes I remember plays. I'm like, did I make that play up, or was that something that we actually did? We did make Whale into VFD, didn't we? I
was not playing Fluffle at the time that VFD was legal, although I've done it in Master Duel a few times before they banned it. So this actually another question actually came up just off of that. We're doing improv today. So you mentioned a numbers collection, and the people on TikTok also know that you have a hero collection. Do you collect anything else? What kind of has you? What?
Not at the same time. It's one. You get one at a time. Otherwise, I will literally lose my flat. So no, it's this could bridge into content creation a little bit, but the first collection I did on TikTok was my number collections. I got it Number Hunter, and I collected every single number in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I have actually right here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so this is my number binder.
That's beautiful.
And it has all the numbers.
I like that.
I've always been interested in collecting numbers ever since Zexal. Because you get the numbers tin, and it would come a bunch of random ones. So I didn't buy every one from scratch. I had a lot of random numbers already. It was mostly hunting down the ones or twos that were quite hard to find. Although I don't know if I'm happy or sad. A lot of the most expensive ones have just been reprinted in Monstrous Revenge. Shogi Rook was crazy expensive. Not that but I've got a very good deal on everything here. I hunted down through loads of bookshops for loads of the manga to get the manga only ones. I didn't buy any of the manga. Every single manga one I got from them, buying a copy of the manga from a bookshop at the actual price.
Second-handing, buying what was the...
Shogi Rook is super expensive at one point.
That's the one, yeah.
And then, there was the more expensive ones like Heart Earth Dragon, Like I got that before the reprint. Sad, but it is what it is.
Before the Ghost from the Past one, yeah.
Luckily, I already had number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon.
That card is
the
still
most expensive. It's not a reprint yet.
No, I can't believe it hasn't been. In like, it feels like every it's like the last 2 years, people have been like, okay, this is the reprint set. No, this is the reprint set. It's gonna happen, and then it just keeps going.
I don't even know if it will anymore. Maybe there's like a copyright reason. Maybe it's like Enios. Maybe it's gonna stay hidden forever.
Yeah, or like Blood Mephist, where it's like there's for some reason we're not allowed to print the word Lord. I don't know. Although we've got Eldritch the Golden Lord, so
can't be that, no. So I got that for about $5 a million years ago because I play Galaxy anyway. That's one of the many decks that I have in a big pile.
Nice.
One day it'll be good. So I haven't like rarity maxed anything. I've got what I've got. As cheap as I can for the most expensive ones. Like I've got a few things that I actually wanted. So I got the Ghost Rare 101. Mm-hmm. I have the Ulti Utopia.
Yeah.
I think that's some interesting ones, but yeah, like so that's the and I've got all like people always go, what about the chaos ones? I do have all the chaos numbers in the back as well, and all the rank up spells and all of the weird new variants.
Yeah,
I've got every single one as of now. There's some more coming, but in English. Yeah.
We're eventually I feel like there will always be some number down the line. I'm pretty sure.
Well, the new one is the last number that we haven't got from the anime, and this is the last number of the whole collection. Now, the only choices they have now is to go beyond 107, which they could do, or we just start going on chaoses. We start picking every number on their mum, and they get a chaos number.
I can't wait for Chaos Crooked Cook. That's
Chaos Cook. Now we're cooking. Add one piece of Exodia to your hand on Summer. We're cooking.
Yeah, if you can make this card and add a copy of Right Hand Shark for inject to your hands. You can make another.
Add one level 4 or lower.
One level.
Just say that.
Just any level 4 or lower. That would go crazy.
But it cannot use its effect for 2 turns. There you go. So that way you can't add a hand trap.
Like
and even if you did, you wouldn't get anything from it. But you can add a piece of Exodia from Deck's hand.
Absolutely crazy.
So I did the number hunt. I got all the numbers, didn't I? I think I took about 24 episodes, 25 episodes. And then I did the ban list hunter. So I got every card on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list. And I was going one by one because when I did the number hunt, it was more like a life thing as well. I'd be like, I've gone to Glasgow for work this week, and whilst I was here, I went to the card shop and I found 31, 37, and 38, and I popped them in and I'm done. Whereas for the Ban Hunter one, I went card by card and explained why they were banned. So I was like, here's Pot of Greed, it's banned because it's broken. Hobby. And then I did that for about like 20 episodes or 15 episodes, and I was like, God, if I do it one by one, there's like 102 cards in this ban list. I will never be done with this list. And that's when you can see the point where I started to get lazy. And that's
just toss a couple of them on there.
Well, no, I started grouping them. So it was like all the cards that make tokens are like, these are here because they make tokens, and that makes links, and that means
it's Tomahawk and Cross time. We're putting them in the same bit.
All in a big part, and then all the stuff that summoned itself from the graveyard, so like your glow up bulb, your fairy tale snows, like, these are here because they summon themselves from the graveyard, and that's broken because links. It's always because links. It's like, sometimes it's because sinks, but it's always these are free links. Bam.
That's a catchphrase right there. Sometimes sinks, mostly links is the summary of the ban list, and then there's like last turn.
Who cares? But I thought the ban list one would be a good idea because then every time there's a ban list, that's like an excuse to make a video.
Yeah.
However, that meant by the time I was finished, I think we had 3 ban lists over the course of the series because it took a while, because a couple of months to find them and get them and make the videos. And obviously I don't post like 7 a day, even if I make 7 in one day. Oh. So like over the course of all of the months, I think we had about 3 ban lists over. There are some cards that I bought for the list that were then unbanned before I did their episodes for the list. I was going to say
that would be a problem. Like you're going to have to take Denglong out of the binder.
Well, the only one that got unbanned, well, 2. The only 2 that have been unbanned since I made the videos already was Blaster and Ancient Fairy. But stuff like Ptolemaeus, I hadn't made the video yet when it got unbanned.
So you were like, cool, I know how to get this. Nice.
Well, no, I already had it.
Oh, you already had one?
The way I go about it, well, as I told you, the number hunt, I was like tracking them as I tracked them down for the ban list and for hero hunt. Secret behind the scenes. I make sure I have the full collection before I even start the video series. Which it's sad because I lose out. In the number hunt, people would post me numbers, which was really nice, and I got some really nice numbers for the binder. However, I don't want to be like, I have to find it, or like there's a price spike, or you know what I mean. So I was like, I want to get the whole collection sorted, and then
start putting it out.
I will start episode. So Hero Hunter, I didn't make episode 1 until I'd finished the Hero collection.
Right. I imagine people commenting, being like, "What? You have to get Air Neos," and then being like, "Well,
I've had Air Neos for years, so that was fine by me. Luckily, I've got all the expensive numbers, all the expensive heroes." But that's more, and that was partially a good thing because I wanted people to be able to say, do Air Neos next time, and then I can, because I don't have to look for it, because I got it ready to go, and I'd be like, well, who do you want? What hero do you want? And they're like, Bubble Man. I was like, Bubble Man. Okay.
So I guess that kind of segues into the last section of what I wanted to talk to you about, is like, why content? Why videos? For me, it was like, you do a school project one time. They're like, use iMovie, and then you add like a really crappy transition into a thing for like 12 times, and at the time it felt so impressive. But that's the type of thing that gets you hooked, and then you think, well, I really like this thing. Maybe I could put something up about that. Like, what got you into making videos for either for your hobbies or for anything else?
So, it's been a very, very long journey. I've always looked up to content creators, since I was a kid. The weird thing, the first podcast guest we had was Asian Eyes, and I saw like a 12-year-old kid. He'd be all I'd be watching on YouTube. It's like dueling book videos, like all of those.
The old Yu-Gi-Oh vines.
Old Yu-Gi-Oh vines. So those kind of people in Yu-Gi-Oh Bridge series. So I've always been interested in content creation. I've had many half attempts, like as you're a kid, you like try and do some Minecraft stuff, you do some other stuff, you do all sorts of content. The first real content I actually made properly that I would publish on the internet, it was called Yu-Gi-Oh! Condensed, and nobody knows about this because it was published on Dailymotion only because of the copyright bots on YouTube being too strict. Have you seen those videos in the feed of like GX episode 7 in a minute? And they've just like cut right down to like the nothing but hi by. I did that about 10 years ago on Dailymotion, and it was called Yu-Gi-Oh! Condensed. And I would condense GX into more like tasteful bites. And it wasn't just. I'm actually proud of some of that. I think some of those episodes have been taken down. And I don't even know if they're still there. I'd have to have a look. I haven't logged into that account for a long time. But I would cut to bare minimum of the plot. I cut out a lot of the bad jokes out. Not that I don't like the bad jokes, but it was like the raw experience of it, enjoying it. So you get there, the plot happens, and then they duel. And you cut out all of like the side character, where it cuts to Cyrus, and it's just the duel and the plays, and cut out the explanation of what the cards do, because assuming that you're probably a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, you'd already know what most of them do. And I edited around some stuff, so I took out all of Crowler being horrible. I also took out Crowler being scared. So when Crowler sacrifices himself to the Shadow Riders, it actually looks quite heroic, and there's no like undermining it. So I edited it to change, and I edited out all of the Chaz being a dickhead as much, and left in all of like his rival journey and his like going. So I changed the way some of the characters were portrayed a little bit because of my own tastes. So I did all of GX Series 1. And so you can watch, if you watched it, only my condensed version, you would watch all of GX Series 1 in about an hour, I think. I think I condensed it from 52 episodes down to an hour of content.
That's crazy. I know I've seen, because I've seen stuff like, people, there's their websites where you can watch Naruto without the filler. And it cuts it down to like, it does cut it down pretty significantly, but to take the full first season of GX and just drop it down to like an hour
I think it was an hour.
Really impressive. That's gotta be
because there's so many filler episodes you don't even need to include. Yeah. Like, you don't need the monkey duels. So it'd be like the entrance exam, the Bastion duels, because that's also like setting the like how good Jaden is as a duelist, and then the Chaz leaving and coming back, the Shadow Riders, and then that's the end. You know what I mean? So you don't need like as much of everything. And so I was sort of just trying to think of a movie of GX. What would it be?
I have to imagine it's the type of space where at some point somebody's going to comment. Actually, I think the monkey duels are extremely important to the plot of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Well, because he comes back in Series 2 when he's got amnesia. How will that set up and pay off? Well, sadly, I did in Episode 1 of Series 2, and the copyright bot on Dailymotion would just not let me post that Episode 1 of Series 2, and because I just couldn't post it, I just stopped the project. But that is also not very good, because I made all that in, like, the Windows Movie Maker thing, so it's pretty... Some of them actually hold up. I did go back and watch. I did episode 1 to 4 of Pokemon Anime Condensed, and that condensed like the first 15 or 20 episodes down to like 4 episodes. But I didn't finish that either, because I think my old computer died, and then I didn't bother getting it all set up on the new one. So that was as a kid, or maybe like 16, 17. I've always been a writer. I write a lot, and so I've had a lot of blogs over the years. You ever heard of the app Amino?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I ran the Ben. Well, I still do technically. I'm very late. I run the Ben 10 Amino, so I reviewed every single episode of Ben 10, and at the start it was a bet with a friend. I was like, I bet I could write as much, because I was at uni then in first year, and I was like, I've written 3,000 words about some journalist. I bet I could write 3,000 words about the first episode of Ben 10, and I did, and I wrote it, and I published it, and so I reviewed every single episode of Ben 10. I will not promise that all of the reviews stayed at that essay length. I made them like blog length after a while. So I became like quite a big figure there. You know, I had about 6K followers there, which was big a while ago before I started doing other things. And that's when I did interviews with Derek J. Wyatt, who was the main artist on Omniverse before he passed away. And then that's how I got my interview with Paul Eiding, who is the voice of Grandpa Max, many people in Metal Gear and other things.
I was gonna say I mentioned this off pod, but that was the first video of yours that I found on TikTok. Was just came across my FYP, was the interview with Grandpa Max. I was like,
which is surprising because it didn't do very well on the views.
I know. I over the last few days I've kind of like gone back through the page, but that was the one that came up, and I completely forgot about it. I watched it; it was totally gone. And then some like number of months later, it came back up again, and Sonny was like, "Hey, this guy wants to like have us on, or we need to have him on." And I was like, "Hold on a minute, I recognize that dude. Where did I see this before?" And I scrolled down the page. I was like, "It's the guy who talked to Grandpa Max." That's
yeah. No, so it was he's really good. There's a full version on YouTube. Obviously, I only put a clip on TikTok,
I didn't know there was a full version on YouTube. I'm gonna have to go watch that now.
There's actually 2 full versions on YouTube, because me and him had a call that lasted 3 hours. So there's the clip I put on TikTok. There's the 20-minute version on YouTube.
I don't know. Oh man.
There's also a 40-minute edited version, and there's also too much in the 3-hour one to include. And we had some real chats that weren't really public friendly, but like that's like a good 40 minutes of good stuff on YouTube somewhere hidden.
Thank you. I have to. I'm gonna go watch that after this.
He's lovely, absolutely lovely man.
Okay.
So then the Ben 10 blogs. I'd already done review blogs of my own. I have my own like website where I used to bother to write blogs for. My job, which I won't go into here, I make a lot of videos anyway, and I do a lot of audio editing and podcast editing and other things as well. So I'm already doing it anyway for work.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be like a YouTuber, or not like specifically a YouTuber, but a content creator of some ilk. I used to write for a site called the name of the site escapes me now. What did I write? Oh yeah, you stalked me. Oh no, I'm having a mind blank. No, it was
Serpent Cards, Card Market.
Let me find it. It is
WordPress.
So I used to write for. I've got it.
Okay.
I used to write for a site called GameBite, and that's a video game news outlet. And I wrote a lot of things there. I did the Master Duel review on day 1. I think it was I think I got Master Duel's percent higher on the games gamer score, whatever. It's a critic. So I used to write for them a lot, and I wrote them all sorts of things like where to start with Final Fantasy and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel reviews and the World Ends Review reviews and all sorts of gunk. And one thing I wrote was a review of every single Pokemon movie to tie in to whenever the last Pokemon movie came out, because it was Secrets of the Jungle and it was coming out on Netflix, so we all knew that we'd all have access to it. So I thought, I'll review every single Pokemon movie. And so I wrote a review of every single Pokemon movie from worst to best, and there was like a paragraph for each one. And for whatever reason, the article didn't get published, and it just sort of sat in the Word drive for a very, very long time, like a month or two. Which is, by then it was less relevant, and that's fine. It is what it is. And I just looked at it, and I said to myself, if I read out that paragraph,
how long would it take?
That's about a minute. Is that something that somebody would listen to? And so, at that point, there were 24 Pokemon movies. I think there still are now at this current stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made the video. I made a review for each of the 24 Pokemon movies. That paragraph that was that one article that reviewed all of them was just each video was 1 minute of, I thought this movie was great, and I thought this movie was shit for this and this and this. And this. And so I posted it on YouTube Shorts. I posted it on Instagram Reels, and I posted it on TikTok. And on Instagram Reels, it got 7 views, and on YouTube Shorts, it got about 100 views, and on TikTok, it got 6,000 views. And so I was like, well, and the annoying thing is that there is a typo in the TikTok version, because the other ones did so poorly. I could take them down and put them up again with the fixed version. However, because the TikTok one did so well, I had to leave it there. And then I put the next video on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And on day 1 on Instagram, it got about 20 views. And on YouTube, it got about 200 views. And on TikTok, it got 20,000 views. And I was like, okay, so I have found the platform that works for me. And I am going to continue with this particular avenue, because it is tiring to make it for all. Because TikTok, you can have up to 10 minutes, so you can sometimes make a video that's 1 minute, just 1 second. And then you just can't put that on YouTube Shorts, because it comes up as like a proper video.
A regular video, you got the weird like border thing that shows up. And it's like,
it's real nasty.
It's the full screen, you got this little bit.
It's horrible. And it's weird, because one video that does like, I've got one video that's like 500,000 on TikTok right now, and it's got like 200 people on YouTube. So there's no correlation between the kinds of content that works in either one.
Yep.
But I think what's making me stand out a little bit is because I'm not making TikTok content. I'm making the kind of content that I would watch on YouTube. It's just really short. And so I make content that I would watch myself, and then hopefully somebody else who's like me would also enjoy it.
Hopefully
so I did nothing but Pokemon.
That's It's interesting to hear that perspective, actually, because from because I have definitely also kind of seen the audiences are mostly separate on the platforms. Honestly, it's not a very consistent thing, even through something like YouTube and Spotify. Like we're way bigger on the actual podcast platforms than we are on any other like content platforms at all. Just because the audiences that listen to like the audio only stuff is just different than who's going to show up to a podcast on YouTube. But with TikTok, it's like, it's still a completely different audience, but hearing that you still make the content you want to make, you're just now writing it to fit within that time frame is interesting. So rather than making a video for TikTok, you're making a video that you want, that you can put on TikTok. I think that that definitely makes it feel a lot more genuine, gives it a lot more quality, I think.
There are some times where I try to play the algorithm, but for the most part, it's always something that I would watch myself if somebody else posted it. And so I started with Pokemon reviews and did 24, there was 24 films, so that was every day for 24 days. There was a Pokemon review at 7 o'clock, always new. Then my real joke was that I was then going to do a Digimon movie review, and I was going to say the Digimon movie is better than all the Pokemon movies. The Digimon movie review did very, very well, which is more than I expected, given that Digimon is more niche than Pokemon. Mm-hmm. And so then I reviewed all the Digimon series, and then I reviewed all the Yu-Gi-Oh series, and then the Yu-Gi-Oh ones did not as well as the Pokemon and the Digimon ones. But then when I was doing the Yu-Gi-Oh anime reviews, I finished the Yu-Gi-Oh anime reviews, and I wanted to try and make something that was more original content, that wasn't just a review. And that's when I did the Number Hunter, and then the Number Hunter did really well. I think it was on it was my first to 100k, and it was on 100k within a week. It was really quick. No. And I was like, okay, we're doing something here.
Yeah, we got something.
And then I did Number Hunter, and then whilst I did Number Hunter, I've done a few dips and dabs. I've done some Beyblade reviews. It's mainly because Yu-Gi-Oh is easy to talk about, because there's so much stuff to talk about in it. And in things of think of it as prop wise. I've got the cards I need to make the the pretty little videos, and I've got stuff to talk about. I can talk about the anime, I can talk about the card game, I can talk about being a casual, I can talk about playing competitive. Whereas Digimon, I've reviewed every series. I've kind of said what I have to say about all of it, and I love Digimon, and I would I'd kill to make Digimon content all the time. And when I do make Digimon content, it doesn't do terribly. Interestingly enough, despite the fact that my original following was built on Pokemon, whenever I do Pokemon content now, it does terrible, but there we go.
It is funny how that works, where you start with something, and then eventually it's like, oh, the people have kind of grown with me. That's interesting. Like,
yeah. But I think you got to look at it realistically. I think I've had about 6K followers off Pokemon, Digimon, and the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I went up to 20K just off doing Yu-Gi-Oh! On live. So, like, that's where they came from. They came for Yu-Gi-Oh! That's where they are. Although I refuse to stop doing variety stuff. Like, I did all the Beyblade reviews recently. People love it when I'm... It's interesting. Negativity works on TikTok. Like, it is the... If you look at all of my videos, mostly, if it's not a collection one that's done very well, if it's a review, it's a review where I'm horrible to something. And that... It's really... it's quite tempting to be more toxic than I would really be, but I'm not. I've been very good. I'm only mean to stuff that I actually care about. So because I went from worst to best with the Pokemon movies. So every single day I'd be like 4 out of 10, 4 out of 10, because I'm starting with the bottom of the list. Obviously, by the end we got to the top, and it was the ones I really love, and we're like 10 out of 10. But so every day I'd be like, "You hate Pokemon. Why are you even bothering with these reviews? You keep watching them, but you keep hating them." I was like, "Yeah, because you're at the bottom of my list. We're gonna get higher and higher. You gotta keep going."
I promise the rainbow is at the end of the tunnel. Please.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the ones at the top of the list where I was gushing over, Pokemon movie 2000, they got worse views. But then the Digimon movie review where I'm gushing over it, that got really good reviews. So it shows that positivity does work too. But my only one that's over like 500,000 is a review of Ultimate Spider-Man, and that's where I slag it off so badly. It also has the most mistakes of any video, because I made it really quick, because that was I did a review alphabet, where for December, as the advent calendar, every single day had a different review beginning with a different letter of the alphabet. So it'd be Avatar, and then Ben 10, then Card Captors, then whatever I did for D, Danny Phantom.
Danny Phantom.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
It's a fun one. I like that one. But for the Ultimate Spider-Man one, I think I was going home to my parents, and so I had about 5 left, and so I just did them all in one afternoon. And because I did them all in one afternoon, there wasn't I didn't edit them particularly. Well, no, I edited them, but you know what I mean. I didn't read through them as much as I would. And Ultimate Spider-Man, I called Flash Thompson. I called him Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I called him Flash Gordon, and they're like, "Oh, Flash Gordon."
Yeah. we got the wrong franchise. Oh,
wrong franchise. They sound similar enough. Yeah, Savior of the Universe. Every time somebody corrects me, I just commented Savior of the Universe.
Yeah.
It's gonna save every one of us. And so that was me going, this show sucks, this show's terrible, all animation. I didn't think that was going to be a controversial video, because when I grew up, we all thought it was terrible. It's this nostalgia that people have for it. These are the kids that grew up with it, whereas we were the teenagers who grew up with it. As teenagers, we all hated that. As kids, they loved it, and so 100%. It is interesting. And there is the temptation to be more negative, but I tend to, if I have a bad review, I tend to do it, but I can't force it out. I would love to find more stuff that I'm angry about in Yugi. That's why I made that fun video. It was Yugi's a bad friend to Joey because he gave him Time Wizard. Yeah. And everyone's so missing the point. They're like, well, of course Yugi's card works in Yugi's deck. I'm like, yeah, but it'd be like if I played Kashtira and I gave my friend a Tier Element deck. You know what I mean? And you're like, this deck's the best. And you gas him up the whole tournament. And he's like, yeah, Mills are the best. And then you're like, D-shifter. Yeah, you can't do anything. And you know what I mean? And it's like, he did help Joey. He gave Joey a good card. And he got Joey lots of wins. But he had a plan the entire time of how he was going to beat him. Because he was like, Joey's going to Time Wizard me. Got Dark Sage in deck. All good here. You go off, King.
The entire... It is interesting with the... Yugi's whole bit is just that he's always one step ahead. The entire time through, even back to the old first 7 volumes in the manga, where it's like, yeah, you can play a game with me, but I've set this up from the start. And even all the other people who've rigged their games, it's like I've actually rigged your game before I even stepped into the room.
100%.
The game it's like the game show episode is the one that I think kind of got me sold. Not the episode, but the chapter, and also like it's funny how they experimented with so many different things too. There was like the figure fighting game, like the Punch Out type of thing. My
favorite of the original is the Joey Yo-Yo chapter, where Joey's like getting beaten by like a gang of yo-yoers from either side. Like it's crazy.
Actually, this whole place is filled with water, and I've got to like, or I can't remember if it was gas or like if it was they threatened with like electricity or something. But whenever Yuki,
or the episode where Yuki and Tay go on the date, and then there's a terrorist that's going to blow up the Ferris wheel.
The Ferris wheel, yeah. We have to play solitaire to try to figure out which of the carts the guy's on. Ugh.
Yeah, like I'm glad that we got to Yu-Gi-Oh! I love the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime as a proper Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, but that manga's really fun to read. I really like that manga.
It is. All right. I think that is probably going to wrap up our time today. So before I let you go, I am going to subject you to the names of our Patreons. I'm just going to make sure that I'm sorting these out correctly. Audience, because I think the first time I tried to do this, I accidentally read some people who weren't there anymore. All right. So massive shout outs to all of our patrons, including Bring Red Reboot Back to 3. No. Kane Martin, Zyphorus, Big Stinky, Broken Boy 13, Ding Dongs, Hostess of the Yangzing, Earth Machine Best Deck. Has anyone actually read Toy Vendor? So this one irks me because not only have they spelled vendor Vender, but they've also spelled red Red. And I think that they are slowly...
Is there a caption limit? Like there isn't one, isn't there? The rest will longer. No,
there's no limit, and it used to, I think it actually used to be Read. So they are slowly changing it to mess with me specifically. HZH Cyber. I used to play Rogue, but then my mom got a job. Don't know what that means.
That's a good one. I imagine that means she's paying for your meta deck.
Yeah, probably.
Did you pay for mine?
True. When do we get to be sugar babies? Come on. Is Canada Nickelback? John Leal, Mountain Man, Oatmeal Spaghetti, Owen Alvarado, Pistol RX, Silver Hope, Sonny stole my phone and took pictures with a Mo Yi body pillow. There is one rule and only one. Always read Misk. Understanding and reading are two different things. Upstart Goblin D's nuts. Terrible. Virtually Savior's World. Zach N, Aaron Gardner, Alexander Chan, Asami, Ashless Chaps, Atsuyo, Simp of the Silver Castle. Blackwing Silverwind the Ascendant is the best Floodgate. I gotta disagree. Boxwine, Co-Link D's Nuts. That's not the last D's Nuts joke in this list.
I'd be disappointed if it was. We need to have a really good one first.
True. Come on and get your game on. Duty Booty, Dragon Maidenless Behavior. It's probably one of the all-time greats.
That's a good one.
I'm about to Rika Glamour tribute for cost. D's plant nuts in your mouth. That's the most involved one for sure. Nessie,
hey, going to Worlds. Those nuts are going to Worlds.
That's true. These nuts are going to Worlds. Okay. Neshi, shoutouts to Jess. You're awesome. Neshi.
Yes, it's amazing.
Old Man Red, pin code 143. Sakitama, Aratama, Nikitama, Cam Obama, and slaking it up. So those are the crazy people who support us. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast. And speaking of thanks, James, thank you so much for coming on and saving me while Sunny has been away. Do you have anything else you would like to say to the people? Where can they find you? Where are you available? What can they do to support you?
Thanks for letting me come on. I've been meaning to for ages, but it's just been
The
so
way-
busy with work and life and everything else. And then I listened to you last week whilst I was in Wales, and I was like, they don't even have to host as co-host right now. I should really make the effort to come and help out.
Yeah.
If you want to watch me duel on live stream, we duel with dual discs, as you can.
I don't remember the username, the blonde guy.
Ghost Galaxy cosplay.
Ghost Galaxy,
yeah.
That's the guy. I've seen him everywhere, and I remember I saw you on stream with him at one point. But
so we do it. We used to do it daily, but we've just been a bit busy recently. So we duel on live with dual discs all the time with paper. So if you want to see me live, that's that. So that's James Sumner 101 on TikTok. If you want to listen to me talk about card games with better players than I, then listen to the T-Set Pass podcast. So that is on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Scumner, Scumner. But it's also on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Anchor, all the podcasting platforms that it trickles out to when you put it in the program. And yeah, I've done some other non-Yu-Gi-Oh stuff as well. I occasionally review Beyblade and Digimon. I've done a Nuzlocke on YouTube that nobody watched. That's what really soured me to YouTube for a bit, because I spent so long. Like, I used to do like medium quick edits, and I was like, I'm going to spend like a whole month on this video, and I did, and it didn't even get to 100 views within like a week. And I was like, wow, I'm going to do mid-tier content for a bit, because doing this high-tier content was too little returns. But yeah, so no, it's so if you want to find me there, I'm doing that. I've recently just started a new series hunting all of the hero cards, so I'm collecting all the hero cards and putting them in a nice binder, so let me know who you want to see. I've also just started a brand new series of last week where I'm going to locals and trying to actually turn pro. So I'm going to my next locals straight after this. I've changed up tier element a little bit based on some feedback and some lists that I've been sent from some different people. So fingers crossed that we can get past that 7th place this time. Although I remember this shop is a bit more competitive than that shop, so maybe even worse than last time. But we'll find out together. But yes, that's me. That's me today. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Best of luck on your locals journey. And as always, I got to end the episode with a crappy card pun. So I am gonna jet my way out of here. Okay. it's just whatever's on the side of my desk.
Bye Bye Podcast. My favorite.
Bye Bye Podcast. Damn it, that's good.
I think it's Bye Bye Damage is one of my favorite cards of all time.
I guess on that note, Bye Bye Podcast. See you later.
Bye bye.